Hey all, Hipper here. So today we are taking out the Yahagi, and this is of course using an Agile build, and I just wanted to show off the ship because it's been a while since I've played it, and it's actually quite an entertaining yet quirky ship down here at the tier 4. And you can't really get this ship. It was a milestone sort of gift in a campaign about almost a year ago, I think. So it's not for sale or anything, and I don't know when it will be back, unfortunately. So let's just have a look at my build here. And I'm using an Agile build, like I said, with Mikawa. And pretty fairly standard here. It's exactly the same build I use on Atago, actually. And it works really well. So let's have a look here, and I use Azure in Baltimore and Clara as inspirations: ingenious, full speed ahead, velocious, steer clear, and fully packed. So on the ship we don't have many things to choose from, so I just choose the improved turret rotation. So 3 sonars, 3 catapult fighters, 3 engine boosts, and 12-kilometer torpedoes. The engine boost is kind of weird, and it only gives you 8% extra boost, so that means you can get into like 40 something knots with 3.8 second rudder. 3.8 second is pretty good for tier 4, but it still doesn't make this cruiser a true Agile cruiser. For that you need to get down to 3 seconds, preferably less than that. Perhaps it will one day. Anyway, as you can see, 12-kilometer torps are always useful, especially down here at the tier 4, where no one's really used to such long-range torpedoes from a cruiser at the very least. So I'm sure you saw there that the torpedo angles, the firing angles, are atrocious. You have to show full broadside to get your torpedoes off in this thing here, so you really have to keep your wits about you if you want to fire torpedoes, because showing broadside in Yahagi, just like any other cruiser, especially Japanese cruiser, it's just asking to get citadeled. And down here at tier 4, the battleships are so powerful that if you get hit, it's usually a citadel. And that's why I don't play many low tier cruisers, actually, because I think the battleships just have like too much of an upper hand here on these tiers here, along with destroyers. There's not really any radar cruisers down here, so destroyers just pretty much have, free run, and battleships don't really have to do anything. They can just sit in a spot and shoot at cruisers, and if they hit, it's a citadel. It's not the best tier for cruisers, I think. Definitely not, actually. Until you get up to tier 7 and legendary tier, I don't really think that cruisers really get into their own, which is a shame, really, but that's the way the game is. So first of all, we're trying to get rid of these 2 destroyers over here on the flank. We're not going to allow them to get into our half of the map, because then that means they will just go absolutely on a rampage down at the back of my team and just sinking battleships. Because like I said, you only have sonar at this tier here to keep the destroyers in check, and frankly, that's not really enough. I mean, destroyers are pretty much just as dangerous at tier 4 as they are at the legendary tier, pretty much. I mean, and they're just so much more powerful down here because of the lack of radar cruisers and, long-range sonar or anything like that. And I mean, it would help if the destroyers didn't have, the same concealment as the higher tiers, but they do. They can get down to like less than 5 kilometers, exactly like the legendary destroyers. So low tier destroyers have a massive advantage, and obviously, seal clubbing down here and the lower tiers in destroyers is just the easiest thing in the world. And playing battleships is also pretty much just a robotic thing here, because point and shoot is really all that it's about. As long as you don't get torped by one of those like almost untouchable destroyers, then it's all good. So cruisers have a pretty dangerous life at tier 3, 4, 5, and also is pretty much at tier 6. It's not until, like I said, you get to tier 7 and especially the legendary tier where cruisers become absolute powerhouses and actually can hold their own, probably becoming the most dangerous class, actually. But down here, low tier, middle tier, yeah, they get slapped around a bit. So Yahagi is a fun ship. I mean, it's almost like a small Atago, except for the fact that you don't have those very nice torpedo angles. I wish it did, and I'm hoping for a new, mid-tier Japanese cruiser that might actually be a small, interesting, fun Atago. But until then, we have Yahagi, and it's not bad at all. It's definitely not bad. It's if not my favorite tier 4 cruiser, then it's definitely up there. Because it kind of got pretty much the tools, except for the radar, which, yeah, no one really has down here at tier 4, which is kind of weird and a little bit frustrating sometimes. So like I said, destroyers, they simply just rule these tiers here. And especially if you have one of the more overpowered ones, like the Kamikaze. That's just not, or the G101 or something like that. It's just stupid, but that's the way it is, and wargaming isn't going to change anything here. Cruisers, they only exist to feed battleships, citadels down here, and not that much fun. And you can see we only have 2 battleships in this game here, which is one of the reasons that I actually managed to do well. Because when you get into a game with 5 or 6 battleships at these tiers here, it's just not fun at all. So I fired Torps trying to catch this Iron Duke here in a turn, because I'm kind of luring him with my broadside to fire at me, and that is a dangerous tactic down here, because like you're not going to bounce any shells. If you saw there, like I took a nasty citadel right there just because I got hit, and I managed to avoid the other shells, but had I not been like as agile there, that would have been the end of me. And it was just one salvo from this battleship here, and yeah, that's what I mean. I just think it's borderline ridiculous how powerful the battleships are down here, and how powerful the cruisers are. No, the destroyers are. And like I said, this cruisers, they're just here to get slapped around by both classes. And then if you add to that the fact that most, well not most, but a lot of players down here at tier 4 are quite new to the game. So the gameplay and the tactics, or should I say the lack of tactics or any sort of strategy or anything like that, it gets very old very, very quickly. It's these like total random battles where people do absolutely nuts things that just make no sense, and at least makes me kind of, yeah, getting over these low tiers pretty quickly. So this Nevada here is obviously setting up for a shot at me, and if this was at tier 7, I would just stay in open water and dodge. But as it is tier 4, I have to try to get behind this rock here. And luckily he was shooting HE, and again that shows what I said before, that some of the people playing down here in these tiers, they don't really grasp the basics of the game yet, and it makes for some frustrating games. So I much prefer playing up at tier 7 and legendary, and I mean, not that those tiers are perfect, but it seems that lately the overall quality of gameplay, especially at legendary tier, has improved a lot. And I'm thinking it's probably to do with the service cost. That's like keeping people out of that tier who don't make any silver in there. And yeah, that's not what legendary tier is for. I mean, I have no problem making silver there, but some people play this game to make silver, and making silver at legendary tier means that you have to know your stuff. You have to know the game. You have to know everything, and even then you might not make any or even anything. So I'm guessing that's why, but that's not the case down here at the tier 4. Everybody plays down here, and of course they should, but it just means that I'm not a very regular guest down here. So like I said, Yahagi was a prize halfway through a campaign, I believe. I think about a year ago now, I think. And there's no way to buy it, there's no way to get it for global XP or anything. Like, you can only get it if you completed that campaign, which I think most, at least the people who played back then, have done. So I think quite a few people have the ship, they just don't play it, I guess. It's very rare I see this ship here, and it's a solid ship, there's nothing wrong with it, especially those 12-kilometer torpedoes. They can really surprise some of these very, very slow and you know, tough battleships down here, because fast battleships, like, they pretty much don't exist down here at the middle tiers. And again, I miss out on a kill on this Russian here, and it was the same one with the one earlier in the game. I think I gave him 4 or 5 salvos, and he still went on sailing. And that's another reason that I think destroyers just have it too easy down here. Anyway, that was our 4th kill there. I'm just gonna set some fires on this Nevada here, while at the same time keeping the smoke between us. So at least until the smoke disappears, I'm safe. And I just got the high caliber as well, and I'm just doing my best to cap this epicenter here that no one else seems to care about at all. So we'll better make sure that we actually get it, but it doesn't really matter now, because the Nevada is going down one way or another. It's just a matter of who gets the kill. And I was lucky enough to have my fire burn him out there, and that was the Yahagi with a high caliber and a Kraken unleashed. So I hope you enjoyed this battle, guys, here, and if you have the ship, I recommend you take it out at least once to see how it works. And well, I'll see you out there.